Welcome to RomWills Money Matters. Presentation and vending. Presentation and vending. I'm going to tell you what. Let me tell a story. I remember the very first time I was vending. It was at a Black Expo in DC. And I had like a couple of my first works. It was a pamphlet short story and a small novella. And I just had it on the table. And I'll never forget, a young lady came by, and she came by, and I knew her. She said, "Ron, this ain't gonna work." She actually straightened it out. I'm gonna tell you what, all she did was stack the books a certain way and even move my business cards that I had around in a certain way. That's presentation. One of the things that you want to be cognizant of whenever you set up your table, you can't just throw your products on there and think people are going to take them. Because think about something. Whenever you're vending, you're typically vending at an event where there might be hopefully a few thousand people. All of them are not going to stop at your table. Now, I'm going to get into next week one extra thing you can do, but one of the main things you can do is set up your table right. And indeed, you might even think in terms of signs. Depending on what you have, maybe like say, for example, jewelry. You might want to have something where you can hang the jewelry on there, like some necklaces, some earrings, something that people can see. You want to set it up. Now, I set up books, but whenever I had the books on the table, I didn't just stack them. I would always stack them in such a way people could see the title if they read across, and then stacked in a way it would catch people's eyes. And seriously, I would get there early and move it around, and then look around, even walk and look at it, set it up. Very important. You good for some extra sales that way. Because I'm going to tell you what, and this is coming from somebody who's been to several vending shows when I wasn't selling anything. When I would walk through, I wouldn't stop at every table. Even if I would say, okay, what's catching my eye? What's catching my eye? And there's some other stuff I'll get into next week. But what product is catching my eye? Even if it's not a product I have a great interest in. What do they have there? What do they have on the back wall? Like one of the things that some people would have, like if they have one of those vending spaces where they have a sign on the wall, they might put a big sign on the wall just to catch your attention. That's part of your presentation. They would hang up something. See, you got to think, when you are vending, you're trying to catch your eye. Because like I said, you typically have more people. Like I'll use the example of the Black Expos that I've done. There are several thousands of people there, like several thousand. Shoot, but several thousand ain't gonna stop by your table. Several thousand are not gonna stop by your table. They might not even come down your way. If you can get 100 people to stop at your table, I don't care where you at, you doing good. And out of that 100, if you can get 25 to buy your product, oh, you doing real good. Particularly if you really have something. Now, depending on what you have, now other than food, let me go on a tangent real quick. Just set up the food. People gonna come. All right. If you got food, people gonna come. But if you got product, like say you got books, pamphlets, hair things, whatever products, you want to make sure people can see you from a distance. You want to be sure when people walk by, they look at it, something catches their eye. You don't just want to just lay stuff there and sit there and think about somebody coming there. And I'll talk about the sit there thing more next week. You want to have it so they can see what you have. Like I'll use the example of my book, Nice Guys and Players. I would always set it up. I wouldn't just lay it down. I would set it up in such a way, I would set it up so people could see it. Now, I remember there were quite a few times, women in particular, they would see the book and they would laugh. I remember one woman, she saw the book, she was like, Nice Guys and Players, and she laughed. But she came over and ended up buying a copy. But she saw it from a distance. But that was because of how I had everything set up. That was because of the presentation. I would say 40% of my sales came from just presentation. Like I'll use the example of my book, Nice Guys and Players again. I had a lot of guys who would buy the book. Ironically, guys who, like on the surface, didn't look like they needed the book, but that's another story. They would just see it and they would just do it, because also in vending, I would say just doing book signings at different places. People would just come over to me, but I would set it up so they could see it from a distance. Even had signs up with the cover of my book on there. I had special things to set up as signs so they could see that. That's presentation. You want people to know what you have. And everybody's not going to necessarily walk past your table. And even then, you still going to get some people who are going to walk past your table and not look down. And in fact, I'll talk about how to deal with rejections maybe in a couple of weeks. But that's the thing. That's the thing. You want to make sure you have good presentation. I don't care what your product is. There has to be something that people can see from a distance. You can't, because even if you, like say you go to the bathroom. Wait a minute, I got to say it properly. Bathroom. Or you getting something to eat. And somebody might check out, you might have another vendor watch your stuff. You might have somebody come when you're not even there to check it out. You want to have a setup so even when you're not standing there, people will check it out. People will check it out. All right? They will come to it. Presentation, I would just say in vending, that's the main thing. Like there's been some vending shows, as a vendor, I could look at somebody and say, they're not going to get good sales. They're not going to get it because they just sitting there. Their stuff is just laying there. People ain't going to just grab at it. Like I've seen some vendors, they would just do that. That was like, they ain't enough for you. They ain't enough. You have to presentation, everything. And I'll talk about even more about another aspect, a very important aspect of presentation next week. All right? But until then, y'all know the deal. Let's go make that money.